Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from that dusty notepad where I keep all the characters I'll never get to play. I'm your host, Conor Martin, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Mark O'Dwyer.
How's the crack, Conor? Yeah, the eternal bugbear of the D&D player. Oh my god, I've such a cool idea for a D&D character, but I'm already playing a D&D character.
Rip the forever DM.
Yeah, that's the
all of our ideas just fall by the wayside or become NPCs that our players never want to interact with.
Or they become villains that get brutally murdered in the worst ways possible.
Yeah, true. Actually, that's yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How are you today, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. I finished Exandria Unlimited. Finished that yesterday. That was super fun and awesome and different, but the same in like the best way. In that, like, it still very much felt like Critical Role, but like such a different, like, I feel like Abria has a bit more of a screw it, let's just go for this madness kind of attitude.
She's very kind of like let's just roll with whatever kind of comes, and I like that. It's very very loose, but in a way that, like, I think feeds the story quite well.
Yeah, not that Matt doesn't as well, but like it's just a different spin on it, and I'm really enjoying it. And like she's just as well, just like the different flavors to the way she narrates stuff is like, it's like particularly like, because I watched like the entire campaign 1, and like I've now finished. I'm working my way through the last episode of campaign 2. And like I've rewatched a bunch of one shot. Like the amount of time that I've spent listening to Matt Mercer is just crazy. And just to have like, not that that's a bad thing, but like just to have like a different DM come in now, and it's the same world, and it's even back in Amon, like, and there's lots of these hints to like the first campaign and stuff already. And I'm just like, oh, this is so new and different, and I love it so much. And like, I think it's a perfect thing for like the break between campaign 2 and what I assume will be their campaign 3.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think they had their their state of the role, and Matt mentioned that he's getting started on it. So my theory that Liam O'Brien will be taking over for campaign 3 is probably not true, but I'm excited nonetheless, because obviously it's really exciting when you get to see who. It's the same as when you play with a new group, or with the same group but it's a new campaign.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, ooh, what is everybody playing? What are you playing? Well, that's a really cool combo,
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I haven't finished that episode just yet. I'm like maybe like 80% of the way through it. Really enjoying it. It started off in Amon, which I'm like, that's cool. I really like seeing how things are getting along.
Some slight spoilers for Exandria Unlimited possible.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting too much away.
We'll try and avoid the important stuff, just to talk about like what we enjoyed about it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited that they're going back to Tal'Dorei.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing if there's been any big repercussions or actions that have taken place because of the choices Vox Machina made and stuff like that. Part of me really wants to see, because I have it here of the Tal'Dorei campaign guide, and if you read through that, like they only kind of visited a lot of the center part of Tal'Dorei. There's a lot of stuff up north, like way north of Craghammer and stuff like that, and in the south, like way south of Singorn. There's some really cool stuff that Matt came up with, and I think I'd like to see them explore one of those areas. Like, there's a place up north that I think is like, is it called Leargorn? It's another elven place or something like that, and it's a single mountain, kind of Erebor style, but it's all elves that live there, and they're kind of like isolationists and stuff like that. And they have these, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I read it. They have these festivals, I think, where they fly lights around the mountain and stuff like that. So the whole mountain just looks like a big light show. And then in the south, there's like a hobgoblin empire made up of 4 city-states, and there is a fallen, like, the avatar or the body of a fallen god from the time of the thing that
Vecna resurrected.
No, that was
like an Earth, but it was the same kind of thing, though, wasn't it? It was like the body of an Earth Titan or something like that.
Well, this one was the body that one of the evil gods took physical form in.
Oh, okay.
And he was killed during the war. I forget what they call the war between the gods, and the good gods and the bad gods.
Was it the Calamity?
The Calamity, yes. So when that took place,
that was right at the back there.
He was slain here, but his body was made almost entirely of metal. So there's this enormous metal titan that like lays dormant across the land, and all the hobgoblins like employ slaves to basically slowly chip away at chunks of iron that they can bring back to their smelters and keep their steel and iron industry running, that they harvest from this dead metal god. It's really, really cool. I'd love to see just if they branch out to somewhere else because there's a lot of really interesting places in the continent.
That was both metal physically and metaphorically.
Yes, exactly. But other than that, like I said, that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to getting into that. Other than that, not a whole lot else on myself. I'm doing some gardening work, doing some
Very nice.
Not a lot else.
Yeah.
Tried to do some world building. I'm having a real world building block at the moment.
Connor,
I feel like
perhaps you should listen to this podcast I know called Micflayers that have a whole 2 episodes on world building already.
Do they? I don't know. I have enough podcasts. I don't really. No, I need to get I have too much. The problem is I have too much, and I'll start writing or coming up with some ideas for this town, and then I'll suddenly hit a point where I'm like, and then this town was founded by members of this town. I should probably go and talk about the members of that town actually, because and you know what, I can't really, because I need to actually write up the racial thing for this particular culture, because if I don't, then it makes no sense as to how this town was founded, and I keep finding a way to slip off to something else and I can't stay focused on one thing. I'm writing out a development doc for it, and I'm going to start writing. I'm going to take it one at a time and work down the list.
Do you know the way someone, when they go to Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a sponsor, someone if they if they're feeling low and they feel like they're gonna hit the bottle again or relapse, they can call them for support. You need someone like that for world building.
Yeah,
so
I need someone who can be.
Just call it. I'm onto the Third Elders Council now. Stop.
I need something. I need someone who will stand here over my shoulder, and every single time that I go, and then the giants did this with the dragons. You know what? The dragons were kind of big, and they just slap me in the back of the head, and I just go, "Sorry, no giants. We're on giants." Yeah, we'll stick
what
with
you
giants
need
for now.
is an 8-year-old nun with a meter stick to stand
Well,
behind
yeah,
you.
who's whipping me with a straight sider just on the hand.
Yeah, just every time you just right. Just the minute I go too deep on lore, that's when you can get me. And the second you're and the great war aeons ago between the primordial forces of
I just recently renamed the eras of my creation myth.
Dude.
Yeah, I didn't need to. Honestly, that's the problem. I'm really big picture, and then I'm thinking I wonder what this culture was like 4,000 years ago, and I wonder how this thing came about. And then I'm going into the campaign week to week, and I'm like, here, okay, guys, I only have half the map drawn for this particular town, but I know what it looks like in my head, so we're fine. Yeah, I need more focus. That's my whole. I need focus. Speaking of focus, Martin, we should probably get back on track.
Good
Because
segue.
today, thank you very much. I'm really bad at world building, but I'm good at segues. We are talking today about character creation, specifically PC character creation. That's not politically correct character creation, although that's part of it. I'm talking about player character creation.
Cool. It's literally one of my favorite things to do just when I'm bored. Is just to roll random characters. So I'm super down for this. I have a literal page of character concepts written.
Yeah, D&D is D&D Beyond is really, really great for this. We used to have an app that wasn't D&D Beyond that was really, really good. We used it for most of our entire last campaign.
Yeah, in the whole first campaign.
Yeah. Really, really great app. But we used to use that, and I would often find myself just going, I wonder what this combination would look like, and then I would just stat it up on my phone and be like, oh, that's really cool. And D&D Beyond has not helped with stemming that habit where I'm bored in work, and I'm just like, I wonder what a goblin artificer that maybe has the background of Haunted One would be like, and I'm just like, here's a random combination. But yeah, I'm.
Oh my god! Sorry, I just had the best visual for the haunted one, Goblin Artificer. I just immediately thought of do you know Scooby Doo with the haunted suits of armor?
Yeah,
one of those, but it's actually a goblin inside it driving it with levers.
He's in the chest.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you get your? Where do you kind of start with characters? Where do you get your inspiration from, or do you just pluck them out of your own head? Or are there particular characters you've drawn from in order to create the various characters you play in D&D.
Okay, so that could be a little... It's not the same thing every time. Like that, I kind of want to make that Goblin Artificer now.
Yeah.
Like, drives around a robot night and spends his entire time just scaring people out of old houses.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, sometimes it's just something like that that'll just randomly catch my attention. A lot of the times it'll come from like, if I see like a really cool power set in like an anime or a manga or like a comic I'm reading, I'll pull from that. Like, a lot of like an awful lot of time it is just like the media I consume.
Yeah.
But as well, then there's stuff like there's really like I've always said it like mythology is savage for putting at least a basis or an inspiration, like a seed for your character to grow around. Like I did that with Logan Cuchulainn. But like,
I mean, like mythology kind of was the original superhero comics when you think about it. Like, you know,
no, that's it's a I can't remember who said it, but like it's a really well known phrase that like superheroes are the Greek gods of the modern day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like in some cases they are the literal god. Yeah, like you have Thor, who is a Norse god just brought into the modern world, and then you have like
Hercules is a character in Marvel Comics. Him and Thor are buddies.
And then you have like DC Comics, you have Wonder Woman, but then she has a whole pantheon of gods behind her who made her sword and her shield and stuff like that.
And like her main villain is Ares.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're very in the comics they're very literal, but yeah.
It's because you can't copyright.
I know. Yeah, they were during the I think definitely a very underrated race in the. And I mean that in the sense of like the space race, the arms race, stuff like that. Throughout the 20th century, one of the very underrated races was the comic book race between Marvel and DC, because they just kept one-upping each other, and like because like there are characters
in characters.
I mean like character-wise, because I mean like if you look at the characters they've come up with, someone would be like literally I come up with this character here, and then they'd be like, oh, that's really cool, we have this other, like you look at I'm trying to remember, there's a few examples of them both stealing blatantly from one another.
I can tell you the ones I'm pretty familiar with it. It's two of the most famous ones. There is Hawkeye, who I believe first appeared in Marvel Comics as a villain and then became a hero. And I think Green Arrow came out after. I'm very much open to correction on that one. I think that one.
I could be wrong.
Other way around.
Might be the other way around.
Sorry, yeah.
Green Arrow was basically just Robin Hood in the modern day.
That's it. Yeah. Green Arrow first, then Hawkeye, and then there was as well another really infamous one is DC created Deathstroke, Slade Wilson.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Marvel Comics created Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson.
Yeah, which I mean that one's very obvious parody.
But that's, I think. No, I think he was like deliberately inspired. Like I think that was like a nod to Deathstroke, because it was obviously an inspiration. Yeah. There's other ones as well. Like the big one is that is Shazam, who is now Shazam because he used to be Captain Marvel. I think he used to
be Captain Marvel, yeah.
And they were in an entirely different line of comic books and comic book universe that DC basically bought and incorporated into their own. And that's where you get
they do that though. I mean, they didn't originally own Static Shock either.
Yeah, I think that's the same universe as Shazam. Is they bought? I think it's called like Quest. Oh, yeah. I think it's called like Quest Comics or something like that. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I watch a lot of comic book podcasts as well.
Yeah. That's why you're the right person to ask. But I mean, like this. So yeah, I mean, like comic books. I think like you put it kind of you wrapped it up very neatly. The media we consume, regardless of what that is, I think can be a massive inspiration. Regardless of whether it's you're watching, like you said, anime, where you're watching someone like Naruto, or one of my personal favorites, like Shikamaru and his shadow powers, and you're like, oh, playing a shadow monk would be amazing.
There's a dude in My Hero Academia I think you'd really like. I think he's called Yokogami, maybe. But his power is basically like he's an evil twin shadow, and it's like a bird creature that looks like comes out of him, and he can, and like it attacks for him and stuff. Like it's really cool. Like even just for inspiration for D&D characters, I would say give a look at like the power sets of the characters in My Hero Academia, because they're so creative.
Yeah.
Because that's a world, right, where everyone is a superhero, nearly. Like 99% of the world has a thing called a quirk, which is like a supernatural ability, and they range from like there's a girl whose earlobes are really long and she can like jack them in like headphones into audio devices. I might be misremembering her powers entirely, but that is one of her powers. To people, like there's a guy called Todoroki whose quirk is half hot, half cold because his dad had a fire quirk and his mom had an ice quirk, so he has both now.
There was
and like it's just like there's some really more creative ones than that. Like there's a guy who has like tape powers who's basically SpiderMan.
There was
and it's just really that kind of stuff is really fun to just be like, oh, that would be a fun D&D character.
Did you ever? You just reminded me there when you talked about the guy who had a fire and ice parent, and then he kind of ended up with a similar or a combination of the two. Did you ever watch a movie called Sky High?
Oh, I think years ago, but it's the like superhero high school one, isn't it?
Yeah. It's honestly, it's when you watch it back now, you're like, Jesus Christ, this is dreadful. But as a kid, I loved it. That was absolutely brilliant. There's a guy in it, and wait for it. His dad's a villain, his mom's a hero.
Okay.
And his name is Warren Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Micflayers podcast. We're going to end that there today because I just took some psychic damage from that name.
Yeah. Warren Peace. And so he's basically the Sasuke of their group. He's always moody, but he is a good guy deep down and blah blah blah. It's that just reminded me when you said the person who the combination of parents.
So that's a lesson for all of you listening. When you're naming your characters, if you're going to give your character like a pun name, maybe don't do it in English. Maybe like switch it to different languages. If you want your character's name to mean something, don't do it in English. Otherwise, you might end up with something like what the famous wrestler Triple H's very first wrestling name, which was Terra Rising.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
that's actually a good tip. Is I'll often name people. I have done before. I had an air Ganassi monk once, and I played him as an elemental monk, mainly focusing on air powers naturally.
Of course.
But I called him Kaz, which is short for Kaze, which means wind in Japanese. Definitely that's good inspiration to pull from with other characters. All the other things in movies, we're talking about comic books and manga and anime. Movies are really, really great. Tony Stark is basically the quintessential artificer.
He's such an artificer. Do you want to do the? I think we did it last week, but should we do the MCU Avengers as of Endgame? That could be here a while as of Endgame. Will we do the original 6 as classes? What would they be? There's some really easy ones. Okay, Tony Stark is obviously the artificer.
He's the armorer, artificer. Yeah.
Or I think, is the war wizard also gets the magical suit of armor?
No, I think no. And the artificer armorer started off in the UA as a wizard subclass.
That's it. Yeah.
Definitely Tony. Cap would be a paladin or fighter.
I could see probably maybe like a multi-class like Battlemaster fighter, Oath of the Crown paladin.
Yeah, I feel like he could fall either way. He doesn't really have like a lot of powers, so maybe not paladin, but he does have he's very solid on what he believes and having an oath almost. So I could see people going paladin.
Knight fighter, because they all their abilities are based around working with people, and like they can do stuff like when you second wind as a knight. I think allied creatures within
other people.
Allied creatures within 30 feet if you get healed by what your second wind does as well, and you can do stuff
also
like inspire people and stuff, and I think you can mark people as well, which is all very Cap.
You can do the unarmed fighting style as well, so you can wield the shield and also have like punching and kicking attacks that do, I believe, a D6 if you're wielding a shield, but a D8 if you don't have a shield.
Yeah, and you could do you could, if you get another fighting style, then if you were to like multi-class, you could take thrown weapon fighting for the shield.
Yeah. And absolutely. So what we have. Cap, we have
Tony.
Thor
is a Storm Herald.
I feel like Storm Herald was built to be Thor, and then they were like, maybe we'll add a fire and a cold one as well. Yeah. Why not? But I feel like that was very much inspired by Thor. Yeah. So definitely Storm Herald Bard. He takes a lot of hits. He's incredibly strong, and there's lightning arcing off of him.
Hulk
or Tempest Cleric.
Yeah.
You could argue Tempest Cleric as well.
You could argue.
I also think that was potentially meant to be
Thor.
Thor as well. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say Hulk, some combination of Rune Knight and Barbarian, Oh no, wild magic barbarian.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say berserker, but yeah, that works.
Because the
That works.
wild magic barbarian, I think they specifically say that you're the way you get your power. One of the ways you can get your powers is like you were exposed to a scientific experiment.
That's really cool. Yeah, definitely a barb of some kind.
And
I think berserker could work. I think
I said rune knight just for the giant might for the size growth.
I'm trying to think. Is there? I was reading it the other day, and I might be forgetting this.
Path of the Beast, maybe.
Does Path of the Beast get to grow at higher levels as part of their thing?
I don't think so. I think they just like manifest like you can get like claws and a whip.
They get claws and jumping or climbing and stuff like
and
that.
You can get like a scorpion tail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought that movie was scorpion tail.
Hawkeye then is an arcane archer. I think with all the trick shots.
Yes, I wouldn't go for him as Ranger seems like a pick you might lean to, but I wouldn't say Ranger. Or possibly Kensei Bok.
Oh yeah.
With longbow.
That would actually probably make more sense because he's got the hand-to-hand stuff then as well.
He is quite good fighting up close and at range.
He's got the most ridiculous. If you ever pay attention to how Hawkeye's bow works, you'll immediately realize it shouldn't work because not only is it collapsible. And like really collapsible with the string still attached, by the way. But it's strong enough that he can collapse it down and use it as a bow staff.
he did that in Civil War at the airport.
He does it in Endgame as well.
Yeah. Makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. But we allow it because they're fun.
Yeah, and Black Widow is an assassin.
Get off our back, Scorsese.
Yeah, Black Widow is an assassin.
Assassin rogue straight through.
Yeah,
1 to 20 assassin rogue.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple a dip into Shadow Monk if you want, but I think majority assassin rogue.
You could also just take the Shadow Touch feat and take invisibility as your spell.
I was more speaking from having she does have a lot of good martial arts ability as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm being dumb. Vision is interesting. I have an idea for Vision, but I'd like to hear what your idea for Vision could be.
Vision. Okay. Ooh, okay. Part of me wants to say Warforged something.
Yeah, Warforged.
Because he is a robot.
He's a robot. Like,
yeah. So I would say Warforged. Okay, I'm gonna say Wizard, but I don't know. The Mind Stone makes me want to say Wizard, and also the fact that he can literally shoot energy beams. I'm like, you could. And he can fly. You can get all those spells as a wizard. So I don't know.
Warforged Light Cleric.
Maybe yeah.
It was my idea because Light Clerics are such blasters.
Yeah. No, I could see that. Who else do we have? Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. That's literally what she is.
Yeah. I was gonna say Vulture, Falcon.
Oh, Falcon. That's a tough one actually. I think he'd be an artificer again of some sort because he's got the wings. Because well, actually, he's now Captain America.
Well, yeah. Part of me wants to say like we weren't really picking races with people, but like part of me wants to just go like Eric Okra.
Yeah.
So he has say 60 feet flight or 50 feet. I think it's flight speed right from get go.
In the comics, he is like, that's the second Falcon. In the comic books, right? So there is the first Falcon, Sam Wilson, and instead of a drone, he actually has a Falcon called Redwing, and he. And he can.
This is when he had this red and white get up. Yeah.
And he can speak to birds a little.
That's right. Yeah.
And then at one point, Falcon takes on a sidekick, and then a villain called, I think it was the Jackal, experiments on the sidekick and also Redwing and merges their DNA, and that guy becomes the second Falcon, and he's actually part bird.
See, okay, I'm going to say something, right? If at all you're designing a superhero, right? And let's be honest, a lot of superheroes and villains are named after animals.
Yeah.
You got Dr. Octopus, you got Spider-Man, you got Batman.
Vulture.
They're all named after animals.
Scorpion.
What'd you say?
Vulture, Scorpion, Beast.
Vulture, Scorpion.
Well, Beast doesn't count.
But if when you are designing the superhero, at any point you think to yourself, and they should be able to speak to the animal they're named after, that's because you haven't designed them sufficiently enough. Because this is why people make fun of Aquaman, right? Because they're like, oh, and he can talk to fish. If that's what you're clinging to, you haven't designed him well enough, right? Because originally Aquaman couldn't manipulate water and all. He wasn't as strong as he is now. Like Jason Momoa's version is a very skewed version of what he was early in the comic books.
I think he's fairly heavily based off the New 52
yes.
Aquaman, which is basically water Thor.
Yeah, essentially that's the thing. And like, but again, that's not what he was originally. A big thing was that he could talk to fish, and I'm like, do you know why Spider-Man can't talk to spiders? Because he doesn't fucking need to, because he's designed well.
I need to check something before you make a fool of yourself.
Spider-Man can't talk to spiders. There is the Penny Parker thing where she is psychically connected to her spider that's inside of her.
There was also an alternate universe character called SpiderMan, who is Peter Parker fell into a pit of radioactive spiders, and they all ate him. And then when they finished eating him, they all come back together in the shape of a Spider-Man, and he is not Spider-Man, he is Spiders-Man. He is a living, sentient colony of spiders that assumed the identity of Peter Parker after eating them.
So for our audio listeners, I just took off my headphones and walked away for the past 20 seconds because I didn't want to have to. I caught the last part there. Did you say he's a living sentient colony of spiders?
So he's not Spider-Man. I'll repeat this for Connor.
Spiders-Man.
Right, he's Spiders-Man specifically.
Okay.
And I think if I remember rightly from the Spider-Verse story, it was Peter Parker fell into like a vat of radioactive spiders, and they ate him. And when they finished eating him, they basically took on his consciousness or elements of it, and like reassembled themselves in the shape of like a human Spider-Man, and with the suit, and like he'll.
So this is just a suit stuffed with spiders, and they are moving the suit to be him.
Yes, it's like the extreme version of Three Dwarfs in a trench coat.
There is. I'm literally looking at I guess this must have been a reference. There's an episode of Rick and Morty called The Vindicators where there's a hero in it called Million Ants, and it's the guy whose entire body is a huge colony of ants, and that must have been the inspiration for that.
So we'll try and get back onto the D&D after this final note on the comic book tangent. But Connor, Spider-Man wasn't gifted the ability to talk to spiders when he gained his abilities. However, he has been able to talk to spiders in past storylines. Because when you said that, a vision in my head flashed by. There was a character called Ezekiel in Spider-Man who was an old guy who had the same powers as Spider-Man. I think he got them from Anansi, the spider god in ancient Egypt. And at one point he like kind of guides Peter for a while, and then he kind of spoiler, he dies at the end of the story arc. But over the whole time, like Peter's like questioning him about his abilities, because he has all these different spider abilities that Peter doesn't have, as well as the ones Peter does have. And he's like, you can't talk to spiders, can you? And he's like, have you ever tried? And then the last panel of the last like page of the comic book is he like finds a letter from Ezekiel, like just kind of saying goodbye and explaining some things, and then he sees a spider on the window and he goes over and tries to talk to it. So I was like, it's definitely happened.
Okay,
that's from back in the day when I used to collect Spider-Man comics weekly. Okay, so shall we actually do something fun and D&D related? Connor, do you want to bring back something that we really enjoyed from a previous episode?
Yeah, let's do this to get ourselves back on track, because we have lost our way.
Yeah, we've talked about Marvel Comics for about half an hour.
we should avoid. We should have a list of things we avoid on this podcast, starting with comic books and Zack Snyder.
yeah, we can get pretty off topic with it. That's a great podcast, also, though.
It is actually. So Martin, I see what you're building to here, because we have to prep this. So we I believe this was, I don't know what number episode it was. It was the last time we talked about building NPCs, I believe.
Yeah.
And we talked about we played a little game where we prompted each other with a race, a class, and a background. So in this case, I will give you the three of them, and then on the spot you have to come up with a character concept based on what I prompted you. And actually, just completely off the top of my head, this will make a really, really fun campaign.
Okay.
If everybody puts.
Oh, everyone challenges each other. Like you put names in that. You put names in that and draw out, and you have to make a character for that person.
Basically, yeah. And then that person has to play it out.
That would be one you'd have.
Short campaign.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd be one you'd have to test as a one shot first, though.
There would be someone who would definitely get like a a kobold bard, and then it's just be like, screw whoever did this to me.
Someone would get sour. Like someone would get sour pretty quick.
It should be a thing that like every single person has to submit 3, and then you put them all in. So there's like going to be like what, maybe like 12 or 15 class race combos and stuff in there, and then you jumble around, and each person draws 1. And you might end up with like one person who made 3. All those 3 might end up in the game, and you might be playing none of them, which could be very interesting.
It'd be an interesting meta game as well, because there'd be if you were putting in 3, you definitely make one strong one to try and increase your chances of pulling something good.
Potentially, yeah. If I was doing it honestly, I would make 3 of the weirdest, worst combos I possibly could.
I think I would just make 3 awesome combos.
I just do weird ones that no one ever plays. I'd be like, you're playing an arcane archer Kenku. Thank you very much. I pick all the stuff no one ever plays. Okay, so the way this game works, like we said, you get a race, a class, and a background. We prompt each other. Who wants to go first?
You are the host, so Shell, do you want to ask the questions first and I'll answer?
I will prompt you. So, your background is soldier.
Okay.
Your class is sorcerer.
Ooh.
And your race is Duragar.
Oh.
Curveball!
Okay. I like it though. Give me a second. I need to look at. I'm going to pull up D&D Beyond here real quick because I need to look at the sorcerer subclasses off. I don't know them as well off the top of my head.
Oh yeah. So we have Draconic, Divine Soul.
Sorry, what was it?
Storm.
What was the race again? Apologies.
Duragar.
Duragar. Ooh, okay, that changes things. No, do you know what? Actually, it doesn't. Yeah. So it's a Duragar, soldier background, Duragar, Clockwork Soul, sorcerer.
Oh, interesting.
Who, during his time in the military, uncovered, was part of an expedition team that went deep below ground and uncovered a crashed. Christ, what are those names? What are those things? Do you know what are those things that auto hit you for 60 force damage?
Oh, a Marut.
Yeah, they find somehow the like remains of a Marut that somehow got underground, and while they're investigating it, he was exposed to the forces of the plane of Mechanus, and that along with his own natural inclination for orderliness bred into him by the military, resulted in him becoming a Clockwork Soul sorcerer, and he now goes out to spread order amongst the chaos of the Underdark.
That is not where I thought you'd go with that, but I really like it. I love the inclusion of the Merc because I first of all, I just think they're an absolutely brilliant stat block. Just because because they're from the plane of order, they are pure order. For those who don't know, they don't roll to hit you; they just hit you. If they're up within 5 feet of you, they can just slap you with an attack, no questions asked, and they don't roll any dice for their damage. They just do 60 points of force damage every single time. They are insane. I love that. I absolutely love that. I did not think you would go Clockwork Magic though. That is probably one of the last places I thought you'd go with that. I was thinking to myself, I thought Shadow. I thought maybe he got lost in the Underdark and got some shadow magic. I thought Storm. I was originally going to go Mountain Dwarf, and then I thought, okay, if it was me, I'd go Mountain Dwarf who lives on the top of a hill or top of a peak, and as a result, kind of got storm magic from just being exposed to the elements and stuff like that.
Damn, I wish he was a gnome. If it wasn't a Dorgar and it was a gnome instead, I would have named him Metro.
You would have named him Metro?
Yep. Metro the gnome.
God.
Because he keeps time.
Terrible. But yeah, I did not think you'd go that way. Or also, I could have seen Aberrant Mind Sorcerer as well. Because they have a whole link to the. Again, that's where I would have gone. I liked that you went somewhere that I didn't think. And again, the inclusion of the Marut is fantastic.
It's purely because you said soldier first. I was thinking, like, what are the things I want to go get soldier? So what things are like beaten into in the military? It's like discipline, order, regiment. And I was like flicking down. I looked at the subclass inside and I was like, oh, Clockwork Soul. Read the first line. Clockwork Soul sorcerers impose order. I was like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. Military team sent out, exposed to Mechanus, and now he's a Clockwork Soul.
Very good.
Yeah. Oof.
Quick one.
His name is Tally.
His name is Tally,
Yeah.
as in he keeps tally.
Yeah. Keeps track of
Nice.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Connor, so I'll give you my race, class, and background now, if you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. Hit me. I have D&D Beyond open just so I can look up a couple things.
Yeah.
Hit
No,
me.
that
Go.
should have really been a thing I did before I took your suggestions.
Give me background first, if that's okay.
Entertainer.
Okay. Entertainer. Okay.
Race is halfling. And
Okay.
your class is blood hunter.
Oh. Okay. Ooh. Okay. I got them. Okay. Entertainer. Okay. So, entertainer halfling. They grew up kind of as part of like a traveling circus / carnival group. Where they'd put on big shows, but also like little things as well. There'd be people out that operate little booths where you know the thing where you get the ball and you put it under the cups and you just slot like move them around really fast and all that. So there's basically a lot of stuff like that, and there's all these different things. This particular halfling was someone who would do knife throwing. So he had daggers, and he'd go onto a wooden board, and he would travel with his girlfriend, who also joined separately, but then they became a couple once they were inside of the carnival.
Was she the one on the spinning wheel?
He's the one on the wheel.
Yeah.
He's throwing them, and all. And sometimes he's blindfolded, and he's doing it, and he's going with all the daggers. And people loved it, and it was great acting, and it was really, really popular in the carnival. And then at some point in the carnival, during the whole thing, a new member joined the carnival, and she was a fortune teller. And she had a weird vibe about her, and she didn't really get on with anybody other than the kind of circus master. He would talk to her, but she didn't really interact with anyone else. She spent most of her time inside of her carriage and stuff like that. And oftentimes, as many times as people would come out of her carriage and be like, "Ooh, that was a great fortune telling," people would come out incredibly disturbed. And at one point, I apologize in advance. This is just where my mind went. I'm doing a woman in the fridge deal. Okay. But the girlfriend of the character went into get her fortune told, just because she's like, I wonder what all the fuss is about. I'll go and check it out. She went in and she came back out, and she was not right, and she couldn't talk about what Joanne told her. She was just terrified to her core. And he basically went to confront her and said, "What the hell did you say to her? You know, you've upset her terribly. How could you? You know, what did you do?" At which point, Joanne flicked her fingers, and the doors shut behind him, and she, against his will, told him what his fortune is.
Ooh.
And he doesn't remember either, and he can't talk about it, but it rattled him to his insides, and he found that he was cursed. And within a few weeks, his partner, she ran off while they were parked up on the side of the road one night between towns. He just ran off into the woods at some point in the night. No one ever heard from her again. No one could track her. Just disappeared, taken. He went to go and confront the woman, the fortune teller, and she was also gone. Just her trailer was there, but the inside of it was empty. There was no sign of any of her stuff or anything like that. She had just disappeared, absconded in the night. And he began searching for any fortune tellers or witches or hags or anything like that he thought might match this woman's description, hoping to find out what had happened to his lost love, and what it is he said to her and what she did to him. And in the process of finding out or trying to understand what that curse that may have been put on his love and the curse that was put on him, he basically got into this a little bit into the study of blood curses, enough into blood magic that he had the basics and could kind of use some of it. He left the carnival and kind of became an adventurer, hunting particularly fae and witches and stuff like that. And he would throw flaming daggers that he would blood curse or crimson rite on the daggers, and he'd go and throw flaming daggers at his enemies.
That is very cool.
Thank you very much. And his name is Deacon.
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 Very cool.
What subclass would it be? One sec. I need to pick a sub class. Why does? Oh, here we go. Additional Blood Hunter.
I would guess probably not the Profane Soul, based on his hatred of Fae and.
Okay, so not Lycan, not Mutant.
What about what's the one where you get the Rite of the Dawn? Ghost Slayer?
Ghost Slayer, maybe. That's more about. I almost feel like he would maybe actually be Profane Soul.
Oh,
but it's not like a deal he made willingly, or at least he doesn't think so.
Oh, okay.
It's like he is. Yeah, I think he'd be Profane Soul, but I think his pact or whatever that he has somehow the link he has with this witch, this fortune teller woman, is not something he agreed to. Or again, maybe he did. He doesn't remember what happened inside of there. A deal may have been struck in some way, and that's why he is bound to her, and that's why he has his pact magic.
Very cool. Also, side note, I don't think it counts as fridging a character if you don't kill her.
Oh, okay. Still though, I wanted to call myself out on that because I was like, how I thought like I don't know.
Do you know that term actually comes from a comic book as well?
Oh, does it?
Fridging, yeah.
We can't go back on comic books.
I'll explain it really quickly. It's from a Green Lantern comic basically, where Kyle Rayner, the Green Lantern, his girlfriend is literally killed and stuffed inside a fridge to motivate him to go and defeat the villain.
Is that really where it comes from?
Yep.
Wow, I would have thought it was an older thing than.
No, I think it was literally in I think it might have been the 80s. But like literally, she was killed and put in the fridge, and then that became called the woman in the fridge trope, and then that eventually evolved to just becoming called fridging.
Ah, okay. I would not have known to call it fridging, but yeah, it is a trope. But other than that, I'm quite happy with the story. Other than that,
that was awesome.
Yeah, he has the entertainer background. He's quite charismatic, but he's cold towards people now, and his want of entertaining people is lost, and instead he's just about finding out what happened that night on the side of the road.
Any particular reason behind the choice of Deacon as the name?
No, it just kind of came to mind.
It fits though, because a deacon is a position of authority within a religious organization.
It is, and I feel like that's somewhat ironic.
Yeah.
There's an irony to that because he may or may not have made some sort of pact with an evil being or person. So yeah, I feel like there's an irony to the name Deacon. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. Yeah, I think two pretty.
I just love the visual of him in a black cloak juggling flaming daggers and going wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, sick. Isn't there a magic item that's just like an endless bag of normal daggers?
They are. I think it's either a glove or a pair of gloves. Or a bracer, and you can draw a dagger from it and throw it, and as soon as it hits its target or doesn't, it will disappear. But then you can just draw another throwing knife. So it's basically a gauntlet or a bracer of endless throwing knives.
That would be perfect for that character.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. The only problem is, and I realized when I was telling it mechanically, if he does his Crimson Rite and throws something,
he has to hurt himself every time.
He has to hurt himself every time. So maybe he throws daggers when he needs to. But although if you got like a belt of returning, like there is in Critical Role or something like that, I think as long I'd have to double check. I think as long as he doesn't end his turn with the weapon not in his hand, I think
if it's a thrown piece of ammunition, it extinguishes when it hits his target. Because if that wasn't the case, the arrows would still Aerith's arrows would still have lightning energy on them when they're stuck in the target.
1 second now. For the duration of deals, the damage is magical, increase in blood level.
If you ever wanted a speed read version of the Blood Rite, Connor is currently.
Here we go. As a bonus action, you can activate the Crimson Rite on a single weapon with elemental energy, blah blah, no right of your choice. It lasts until you finish a short or long rest, or if you aren't holding the weapon at the end of your turn.
Oh, cool. So it does return.
Yeah, so if you had even a single dagger, if that dagger returns after you throw it, like a dwarven thrower but in its dagger form, he could throw the dagger, it would whip back into his hand, and he could just keep doing that repeatedly.
A rope dart would be a sick weapon for him.
Rope dart would work very well, actually.
Yeah. No, that's I love just doing stuff and just making random characters. Like I've a few other ones drawn up here that I didn't have ready before we started kind of talking about this, and I'm like, ooh, actually, do you know what? That would actually be quite cool.
So who do we have? Deacon and we have Tally.
Tally, yeah.
How would you spell Tally? Tally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just like the name Tally just for some reason makes me think he'd be Scottish as well.
Oh, I was okay. This is weird because in my homebrew world, Asteria, Duragar for me are like Russian and kind of Slavic, and I kind of went more towards the name Tally being short for like like Talavanzov or something like that. You know, well, actually, it probably would be the other way around, wouldn't it? Because I think a lot of the time, not always, I don't think, but I think a lot of the
like
time,
how Joe is short for Joseph.
yes, but that's like in like more Western languages. When we shorten someone's name, we tend to pick the first half of the name. So like, for example, I don't know, like I said, Joe is the first part of Joseph, so we shorten it to the first part of the name. Oftentimes, when you look at like Eastern European countries and stuff like that, they will take the last part of the name. So like I used to work, I used to have a manager whose name was Cornelia, and she was Polish, but then for her nickname, or what she went by casually, was just Nila.
Okay.
So they take the last. That's just a weird like cultural thing, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think like would Tally be the last half of his name?
No.
First name, if he was Russian, but if he's Scottish, yeah.
Yeah, he's Scottish, isn't it? Tally just sounds like a Scottish lad's name. He sounds like he'd be good crack.
He'd have a really thick like
Tally.
Glasgow accent, and he'd like really guttural.
He'd sound like he wouldn't be wouldn't stand out in the cast of train spot.
Yeah, I'm liking these. I'm liking this game because we end up with these weird selections of characters. Like, so last time you had a lizard folk
shipwright artificer,
artificer who was a battlesmith.
He had
a companion.
And it was a robot spider that it was also his background.
Yeah. So which I really loved, and I think what did
you had? His name was it was an orc wizard, is what I gave you, and he was an enforcer for the mob, and you had a really good name for him that I can't think of right now, and it was really
something with a G.
Grunt.
It was Grunt.
Yeah. Grunt was his name, which is a great name. Like.
I think honestly the four characters I'm always just really happy when we come up with these stories and how these people became who they are, and I think honestly half orc wizard war, I think I said warcaster or evocation.
I think it was evocation, because you said he basically shows up and lights people's shops on fire if they don't pay protection money.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so like him, artificer lizard folk, Duragar. Honestly, this is a solid makings of like maybe an evil campaign. Duragar, clockwork soul sorcerer, and halfling, blood hunter,
knife thrower.
Knife thrower, yeah. I think it's a solid group. That's some solid Justice League dark stuff right there.
We know at least one of us needs to be actually dead for that.
Someone has to be a
dead man.
What's the lineage? The Gothic lineage.
The Returned.
The Returned. Yes, yeah. So one of us needs to play a Returned.
I actually have a Returned concept that I quite like. If you'd like to hear it.
That actually would very nicely transition us, Martin, because I was actually going to say, so obviously you and I were both Dungeon Masters.
Indeed.
One of the most rewarding, wonderful creative things you can possibly do. Also a massive pain in the arse because you never get to play any of the characters you come up with. So I'm kind of curious if you have...
I play in your campaign, so I'm kind of cheating the
system. Well, yeah. I am curious what your character, or what if any characters that you have in your backlog that you'd like to.
See, I think you are definitely right, by the way, about the DM thing, because since I started DMing, the amount of characters I make just randomly has just boom crashed into the ground, because I actually have to, also sorry about whistling on the podcast, but because you have to actually make NPCs, and when you want to make NPCs that are interesting, usually you go, I had an idea, I guess. Oh, okay, screw it. Yeah, NPC now. Or villain now. But yeah, this one I have here that was one of the most recent ones I came up with was when I remembered all the new UA races. So it is I think are they called the Reborn or the Returned?
Oh, Reborn might be. I'll double check it after.
Yeah, because I wrote Reborn in my notes here, but basically a Reborn / Returned, Frankenstein style one as well. You know, in that you're like a corpse stitched together from other corpses,
like pieced together. Yeah.
And then Reborn that woke up in an empty lab with no knowledge of his purpose or creator other than a single lab coat with the initials EM stitched into it.
EM.
Yeah. There's no meaning to them. I just picked random.
Okay. I thought you were. Yeah, that's a really good concept. Sorry, I was looking for meaning like EM. Is this going to be a pun for his name?
No. Oh God, it'd be me backwards.
Maybe he looked at it in the mirror and he thought, yeah.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, no, that was one. I think that would be a cool one because then like it's sort of similar thematically to like the Iron Giant, where like almost like you were like a weapon or a tool, but your creator, something happened to your creator after they finished you and they couldn't activate you, so now you wake up on your own. And what does a thing created to have no will of its own do when it has a will of its own?
That is forever such a fascinating concept. We brought this up before because I think you were saying a player pitched this to you or something like that.
A mate of mine is basically playing a Warforged Iron Giant right now, and that was his concept. Right, he woke up underground after. He's a Warforged Artificer, I believe. Yeah. No, a Warforged. Yeah, I think Warforged Artificer.
Artillerist, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's honestly brilliant, and like it makes me, and like you said, it's very Iron Giant, and I think I mentioned this last time you brought it up as well. Is that there's that quest in one of the DLCs for Dragon Age 1 where there is a golem in the middle of town. Everyone thinks he's just a statue and he's kind of frozen like that, and you get the control rod and wake him up.
Kind of. Have you read Frankenstein, like the actual book by Mary Shelley?
I have not.
Okay, so the characterization of Frankenstein is a lot different in the books to what he is in the movie, and I can understand that because with the movies comes the inherent kind of wants to make it a bit more exciting action stuff, but in the books, Frank the monster, he's never called Frankenstein, he's just a monster. The monster, he's actually quite a deep character. He's very philosophical, he's very melancholic, very much kind of laments his own creation. You know, like why was I brought into this world and then abandoned by my creator? Because in the books Frankenstein makes him, then realizes what he's made. Same as the movies, you know, makes it, realizes what he's made, and then is horrified by it. But in the books he just abandons him, just fucking runs.
Right.
And like, as a consequence of that, the monster is like it's highly intelligent, very deep and philosophical, kind of ponders about the meaning of life and existence, but also murders people. Like he murders people.
Right. Okay.
But he's more, more like goth or emo than, and I think that's kind of the characterization of a Frankenstein I would lean into with that. Is the more like Joe, like what happened, that why was I brought into this world and then abandoned? Like why am I a tool created without a purpose? That kind of a thing. Rather than the kind of Frankenstein.
That kind of I may have brought this up before again. I find I'm repeating myself a lot. But just in like looking for purpose and stuff like that, in Asteria, my Dragonborn, all the Dragonborn that exist currently are all of the first generation of Dragonborn. They were all created and they fought in big wars, and then many of them fled, and the groups, like the Dragonborn you maybe see wandering the world, are individuals who have fled the war. And they're like, well, I was bred as a tool of war, as a warrior or whatever my purpose was, but I was bred to be a servant of dragons. I'm now no longer a servant of dragons. I've liberated myself. What am I? You know, like my people have no culture or no heritage or history other than the past 80 or so years. So what is our place in the world? You know, and I have a whole set of colonies that they have made, where it's a bunch of Dragonborn. They're just kind of getting by. Like it's really fun to think about, because I'm like, okay, they set up colonies. They're like building, I guess, houses for themselves. What did their houses look like? Because they don't have architecture. Yeah. Like they don't have. It'd be like, would it be super rudimentary? Would there be no style to it, or would every single house look entirely different from the last? Because everyone's just doing what they think is the best design, but no one's following a unique like style of architecture. And then like what does their government look like? Does it resemble any other governments before, or is it very like egalitarian or whatever,
That'd be it. What might actually be a cool thing to look at for that, in the real world, would be Ireland post independence, because we did a lot of really weird shit, and a lot of it didn't really make sense. Um, like
Ireland experimenting in its own politics led to some weird places.
my absolute favorite thing that we did was, because it's hilarious, was we had a lot of trams in cities, like we had tram lines and stuff, like a really connected tram lines around the country. And as soon as we got our independence, ripped up all the tram lines because the Brits put them down and they have to go. But do you know what we did? But then, do you know what we did with the post boxes?
We just painted them, didn't we?
We painted them green.
Yeah. Yeah, half the like the old post boxes around Dublin and stuff like that are just British. They're the old cast iron yokes.
There's one in green, there's one in town. There's one in the middle of town. You can see it's just stuck into the side of a wall, and it's still got the old HMS or whatever on it. But yeah, that would be a cool thing to look at if you're looking for stuff for that. But throw us an old character concept you have, because me and you come up with wildly different stuff, and I'm always here for it.
Well, actually, okay, I have a couple other ones here, but jumping off the back of what we were talking about a second ago with the Dragonborn and their culture and stuff, I had this character concept that, because it's kind of really suited to my own world, I'll probably never get to play it, but I just thought it was a really fun idea, is to play a Dragonborn Bard.
Okay.
And specifically, you're coming from this Dragonborn culture that isn't really a culture yet. It's finding its roots in the world. And this bard is basically trying to record their history. It's like imagine having all the ability to write and having paper and pens and all the modern writing and recording facilities, and that but you get to go back to the very start of your people's culture. You there's no like, I wonder, did our ancient ancestors do this thing with this object? It's like, no, we know because we recorded it very detailed. So his whole thing is that he's a lore master. I'd go probably College of Lore as well.
Dude, like, oh man, you need to read Mistborn, goddammit, because you're making
I know I do.
But like, the character you're describing is a main character in Mistborn, Connor.
So yeah, but okay, so yeah, the idea is basically he's just like I don't want to. He doesn't want to be a soldier anymore. He doesn't want to be anything. He's like, I just want to find out who we are, what our place is, and that's why I'm recording all of my people's history. Because again, this is the start. Our history began when we liberated ourselves from the dragons. I get to be here, day one, writing down exactly what's happening, and I'd maybe throw in like a bit of a 1920s New York like newspaper kind of reporter.
Oh my god, yes.
Kind of vibe to him, but yeah, he'd be all about like investigating. He'd have a high investigation, and stuff. Very charismatic. And yeah, his whole thing is just like, I need to record absolutely everything that happens, and then I would take that as a challenge to be as good of a note taker as you in whatever campaign that was.
Thank you. No, that's awesome. I love that idea. I think I've actually talked to you about this character. It's not really a spoiler to say what that character is, but have I ever talked to you about like Sazed from Mistborn? He's the guy who has metal mines, and he can store knowledge in the metal and pull it out like a database.
Yes, you have. I believe.
So like, he specializes in like he like all of his people basically, they were a nation that was enslaved by by the big bad of the story, and this horrific colonial oppression, like breeding camps and all this really horrific stuff. Right. But he as a result of that, all of the terrorist people basically they like memorize all of their own history, because all of their written history was destroyed by their colonizers. So every one of them goes out and like memorizes all their history and can like verbatim repeat the entire history of their people, and that continues with generations.
Kind of like the speakers in
very much so. Actually, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I love Castlevania. Goddamn, I love
So
Castlevania.
good. That's really cool. I know I need to read Mistborn. I keep finding more like I started I watched Shadow and Bone recently, the Netflix show. Quite good, not amazing, but it's quite good. And I think honestly, the source material probably does the world and everything a lot more justice. And also I'm pretty sure this first season, because there's like 7 books in that world, but it's like maybe 5 or 6. It's basically a trilogy, a duology, and then one prequel book or something like that. But this first season is basically a kind of melding together of the story of the first book of the trilogy and the first book of the duology.
Ooh.
And the stories are a little bit, they don't 100% line up. Because it's not like they're taking place in tandem. I don't think they're taking place at the same time. They kind of replace a few things to make them fit. But it's good, and the world is really cool. And I keep finding more and more modern fantasy writers who have these amazing worlds with great magic systems and stuff like that. And I'm like, that sounds really interesting. And I just never get around to reading them. And it's criminal. Like Mistborn in particular is one that does interest me. That's
you would really
Sanderson,
like
right?
Mistborn. Oh yeah, that's one of Sanderson's most popular. I think his most popular is the Stormlight though.
Stormlight Archive, yeah. And there's one I was watching. You watch him as well.
He's Daniel Green.
Daniel Green.
Yeah.
He does a really good skit where himself and his friend, and he's just a generic modern fantasy writer, and he comes up to his friend who is playing Brandon Sanderson, and he's like, "Hey, Brandon, myself and the other writers, we were just talking, and we think it'd be really nice if you could just maybe slow down. You're throwing out a lot of books and that's kind of overshadowing us a little bit." And as he's talking to him, your man is making eye contact, but he is like typing away furiously like that. And he's like, right now, for example, you're writing a book right now. And then he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "But you're typing." And then as soon as he's like, "No, I'm not." And he does the click. He's like, "Did you just finish a chapter while you were talking to me?" And he's like, "No, I didn't. You just did the chapter finish click." They're really good.
Yeah. If you follow Sanderson on Twitter though, he does stuff like not to that extent, but like he'll be like, "Hey, I'm working on the draft for the next Way of Kings book or whatever." Yeah. And then like a week later, he'll put up a tweet and it'll be like a loading bar and it'll be like 25%. You'll be like, in a week.
He is. I've like. Oh, I mean, and like the thing is, like, it's not like it'd be one thing. I don't know. It'd be one thing if he was churning out book after book after book on the same world, right?
And if they were bad.
Oh yeah, exactly. But the thing is, they're good. He's an amazing writer. He'll go 1, 2, 3. Now there's a trilogy. Put that out, and everyone's like, "That's amazing." And he's like, "What? Oh, that thing. I finished that 10 years ago. I've written like 6 different other trilogies since then."
And there's just like 4 other magic systems in them now.
And that's the thing. Like every trilogy has a new magic system as well.
There are at least 2 magic systems in Mistborn.
I know there's a third secret one that's kind of a bit of a spoiler. I saw that somewhere before.
Yeah. That's why I didn't say there's 3. Yeah, but
I actually don't know what it is. I purposely haven't spoiled it for myself either. I just know there is
don't, because it's literally one of the biggest reveals in the entire series.
Okay, and I know like Stormlight as well. Stormlight is the one where he has that continent where storms rush in from the east and like knock over the land.
I've only read like I'm literally on the last chapter of the first Stormlight book. Sadly, they just didn't. I just haven't gotten into them as much as I got into Mistborn, but I'm gonna fix that. But
I think you did a thing though, because you literally finished. I think you finished Mistborn, or you finished some other book series within a month. And then you immediately tried to jump onto Stormlight, and I think you maybe needed time to digest what you'd already had. You know?
Yeah, I was unemployed at the time, and I read 18 books in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like, I'm not a fast reader, and I know it's like a muscle, you got to exercise it and stuff like that. I'm audiobooks.
I've literally,
and I will not apologize for that.
I've literally, like, since I was a child, I've been like this.
Yeah, I was good at one point. I think I was in about 3rd class, and our teacher was very, very good for getting us to read books.
Yeah, it's just a matter of me being interested in the book. Once I'm interested in my groove, I'll sit and read for like 12 hours.
Yeah, I've never done that. But you know what? I need to though. I think if I did, I'd get a lot better at reading a lot. I'd enjoy it a lot more. I feel like I'm missing out because there's like amazing. Have you ever? I was looking up stuff about this week, and it's like apparently the most amazing, but also the most cursed thing, and that's why people don't approach it.
I love
the Wheel of Time.
Oh, I've only heard good things about it because I watched Daniel Green.
Well, I've heard nothing but good things, but then I've also heard like it doesn't really hit its stride until the 4th book.
Yeah.
And then also I've heard like it's 11 books long, and it's been going on since like 90 something or something
Sanderson
like that.
finished it as well because the author
he did the last
away.
2. I think.
Yeah, Robert Jordan is the author.
Yeah, and he passed it off to Sanderson, who apparently, according to fans and stuff, did a very, very good job in finishing someone else's work.
I believe he was like handpicked by Jordan to finish his work.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was specifically asked. Yeah, which is very, very cool. Again, like again, Sanderson, like honestly, might be the quintessential fantasy author of our timeline.
He's shaping up to be like the next like Terry Pratchett kind of level, like
Yeah,
creating a
yeah.
massive universe that everyone absolutely adores and is just undebatable quality. Like
And actually, that's the thing. All of his books, despite them being set on different worlds and a different magic systems,
Cosmere,
they're
isn't
all
it?
technically they're the Cosmere. They're all part of the same cosmology and the same kind of world and
Yeah.
stuff, or same universe, I guess, which is insane.
Yeah. Do you wanna jump on a character concept?
Yes, yeah. So we keep getting we're so off track all day. I don't know what it is.
Do you know what though?
But yes.
It's all related though. It's fine. It's all related because we're still talking about magic and stuff. It's fine. We're not talking about like fairy stories again or Zack Snyder.
You know what I think about?
Stop.
No, I won't.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Throw us that one. I feel bad. I feel like I've been hogging the spotlight in your episode.
Oh no, you're great. I mean, I often feel like when I'm hosting, it's my job to pump you for information. So, I have okay. This is the one I actually did get to play for a little bit of time.
Okay.
I, and I don't think I was really sold. I think you know the character I'm talking about. I wasn't really sold on Barbs.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get the appeal. Until until this one came out, right? So Xanathar's dropped, and I fell in love with the Storm Herald.
Yeah.
And I have a Triton barbarian whose name is Aratok. And my God, is he fun to play. He is because okay, so the way my pitch for him, my elevator pitch for Aratok is he's a cross between Aquaman and Thor. And he has the temperament of Avatar Korra. So he's young. He's maybe like early 20s, but he's kind of Avatar-esque in his culture. And the background I have for him is that in his Triton culture, every generation one person is born with a storm, like a storm soul or a storm inside of their heart.
Yeah.
And he is this person. He was identified as a young age of being this person. So he was trained as a warrior and trained to like manifest and control his powers and stuff like that. And the idea is it's largely a ceremonial position, but in times of like great strife and stuff like that, he would be called upon to help his people, you know. And there have been, you know, these people before in past generations who lived their entire lives never having really to do anything. They just kind of live a cushy life where they're looked after and they train and they occasionally make appearances at ceremonies and stuff like that. But he basically decides, being the young, headstrong person he is, very like Korra, I'm not going to sit around here waiting to be called upon. I'll happily do the job. I'm happy to help my people and I want to do right, but I don't want to waste my whole life here, you know, sitting here in like an enclave waiting for something to go wrong so that I can then see the world. I think it would benefit me largely if I could just go out and like experience life and everything, you know. So he leaves his underwater Triton city and goes to the surface and he lands. I played a short campaign of him, just only like a couple levels, but it was like level 6, 7. So it was decent power, you know.
Yeah.
And I played him in this, and he basically went to the mainland. It was based in Sword Coast, and he came up and like I get to play him as a literal fish out of water, because he has no idea about anything on the surface. I decided at some point that he loves sweet things,
Because everything is salty where he's from.
Everything he eats is salty where he's from. He has no idea what sweet is. And he gets to the surface and someone hands him like something sugary or a pastry or a piece of fruit. And he's like, holy shit, this is amazing. You guys have this stuff here? And I remember there was one point. So basically, in this campaign, we got put on like, we were staff on a cruise ship. But it was like, and they were touring the Isles. And when we were on it, the first day, he goes to like the galley, to like the mess hall, and people are getting like a cafeteria style set up where you get a tray and you put your food on it, and you go and sit and you eat. And he goes up and he's watching all the food. He's like, I don't know what anything is, so I don't really know what to pick. And he watched someone else pick up an orange, put it on their plate or the tray, and then walked off. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll take whatever that person's taking. And he grabbed an orange and he smelled it, and it smells nice because oranges smell nice. And he goes, okay. And he's bit into its skin and all.
I knew that.
and I did a face of him going, And he kind of just goes pop, and he spits it out into the ground, and he puts the orange back like bite side down into the pile of fruit. And there was a brilliant moment then where like a few minutes later the captain who, or not the captain, but you know our CO came up and he's like, all right, time for morning duties. Have you all eaten? And he's just like, yes, I had an orange a moment ago. It was delicious.
I love it. I do love it.
So yeah, and I basically play him. I had some great moments with him. He's really fun. It's what made me love barbs. I didn't get the appeal. I thought they'd be kind of boring. Man, the adrenaline rush you get where everyone is hitting you and you're like half that, and the thing is like as a Triton as well, he is resistant to cold and lightning damage as well.
Yeah.
I think thunder as well as a Storm Herald.
I think so.
So he's a bunch of resistances. And then I got to play a few different things. There was one point where we were on top of a wall surrounding a town. It's like 10 feet wide, and there was hordes of goblins coming at us. And I literally ran out front because I was the only tanky person in this party. Ran out front, shield down, trident up, and I was just like stab, 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 and I was tallying them up. And then later on, I was doing the same, holding a doorway, a 5-foot wide doorway. I stood in it, and goblins were going stab, 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 but I was halving all the damage from them. And I think I killed 30-something goblins at that.
Oh my god!
I was at it because again it's like it's attack, and then it's like it's
Lightning
bonus
bolt.
action lightning zap. So
Literally, you were literally Thor on the Rainbow Bridge at the end of Ragnarok.
yeah, oh yeah, like completely, and it was absolutely amazing. I also had another one where the DM put in like a version of Stormbreaker, the axe, into the game.
That's a legendary. That's an artifact actually, Stormbreaker.
It was. I will say it was a little bit OP for the level we were at, but he put the axe into the game, and at one point there were 3 goblin galleys like bearing down on the cruise ship, and I turned to the rest of the lads and I was like, wait here, and I just fell off the side of the ship into the water, and I can swim really fast. So I was just swimming like Aquaman style through the water, and I went up under the ship and I found, I don't know what you'd call it, there's a word for it, it's a keel, the central spine bit at the bottom. Yeah, and I went up to that and I said, can I just use my axe just to punch, I'll rage, and can I just like punch a hole in the bottom of the ship with my axe? And I made a strength check and stuff like that, and I hacked a 2-foot wide hole in the bottom of it, and water started going in, and then I'm like, cool, I move on to the next ship.
Yeah, because there's nothing they can do about it because it's under the water.
I'm underwater. Yeah, it was honestly. I don't know if he told us it was a nautical. He didn't. He didn't tell us it was like a nautical campaign. I just really wanted to play a Triton barbarian. So yeah, and honestly, he was so powerful, and he was a little bit dumb, and he was again, like I said, fish out of water. But he was such a fun character to play. I also got a cool bit where like he doesn't have many spells, but he has some inherent spells from being a Triton. And at one point, the cruise ship was actually sinking, and we were trying to escape on like it's such a big ship. It was like a comically big ship. It's so big that its lifeboats were like other galley-sized boats that would be lowered off the side of it. And we were like loading people on board as the ship was going down, Titanic style. And we had to. The ship was like I had to push them apart, or the big ship would have torn the other ship down. So I basically said I plant myself on the side of the ship and I cast Gust of Wind, because you can do that once a day. So the big 50-foot long, whatever it is, stream like pushes the 2 ships apart. It was honestly that's what sold me on Barbarians. Was playing him. He's a fun character. He's fun. He's a bit of a himbo.
Everybody loves playing a himbo.
He's really fun, and I had this other great moment where like he does not have great high charisma, but I was talking to this other character because we were meant to be there to rob something from the ship. We were hired to steal something from the captain's quarters on the top of the ship. So it was a constant like, we'll move up to this level. Oh, we don't have clearance for that level. Okay, we'll get clearance by doing this other thing. Then we move up to that level. Now we can scope out this level and find out how to get to the next level. And that was a whole campaign. And it was really, really good. But there was a point where I was talking to one of the like lieutenants, one of like the 3 or 4 people that were directly below the captain. And I was talking to him for ages and ages. And I was kind of dancing around the point, and I was doing all this. And he was kind of dissatisfied about working here, and he didn't really feel like it was worthwhile, and he's treated kind of poorly. And in the end, I was like, you want to get in on a heist? After dancing around it for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And then I managed to convince him, despite having relatively low charisma, that yes, he should totally get in on a heist. And he kind of became our ally and stuff then. It was really, really good. It was really, really fun. Sorry, I kind of rambled a little bit.
Oh no, you're right.
Aratak is just an exceptionally fun character to play, and it's what made me love barbarians.
Yeah, no, it's just so fun to just be the wall. Like,
yeah, oh man,
you do not pass.
No, it's honestly that I think that's where it is. I mean, like I again, like they don't get many skills and stuff like that, and outside of like there's parts outside of combat you'll shine in, but when you're in combat and every single time the DM goes 10 points of damage and you go 5 and he goes 8 and you go 4 and he goes 2 and you go 1, like it just to be able to go like, yeah, I'm knocking half of this off every single time. Yeah, and again the fact that he was in a nautical campaign as well,
Yeah.
and I got to use my actual swimming abilities was just brilliant.
Oh, sorry. Jesus, sorry. Yawn came
Am I boring you, Martin?
No, not at all. It's I definitely don't sleep enough.
Martin, why don't you hit me with one of your character concepts there?
I've there's two I'm kind of torn between that I want to have a chat about. So there's okay. I'll give you a choice. So there's one that has a name and one that doesn't have a name. Which one would you like to chat about?
Let's go with the one that doesn't have a name.
Okay, so that one I haven't named yet, but because this is just quick ones I took. But I thought a really cool combo could be a Shadow Monk fighter combo, dex based fighter of course, but you specialize in the use of the use of needles and poison daggers.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Like, cause there's always that one archetype character in like comic books or anime and manga where it's like they're the Dexy character that uses like needles and thread to attack. And like
like where in Naruto and stuff like that, where they set up all the wire traps.
Yeah, like, or there's like a spider demon or something that uses the fucking something like that. And like I think a Shadow Monk fighter could be such a cool way to do that, where like you would literally just like step out of a shadow, flick a poison needle into the back of someone's neck, step back into the shadow, you're outside, they're found dead in their room the next morning and no one knows how it happened.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely a lot of you. I think potentially, I'm thinking Drow just because I'm thinking poison, spider, kind of using like.
I went straight for Tiefling.
Tiefling works too. Yeah, Tiefling
like
works
to
well.
do the like shadow demon kind of thing. Charlie, in my head it's like hood, the horns curl out from under, and all you see are like glowing red eyes, and then like with the fighter you could do a thing where like I just in my head it's like the when I thought about the concept, the scene that played out in my head was there's like a knot of soldiers all back to back, and then like you come out from the combined six shadows up in the middle, action surge, needles between each finger, just back down into the shadow, they all drop dead.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's, you mentioned something on Twitter actually the other day about monks and about how there's no like brawler grappler style monk.
Specifically, like I think it's mad that in all the fighting styles we have between both fighters and monks, that we don't have someone who specializes in like submission grappling, like holds and like choking people out, like breaking bones and stuff like that. Obviously, you would need to bring in some new mechanics in terms of like choking someone out, because as rules is raw, I believe it's 1 minute it's your con modifier minutes is how long you can hold your breath for.
It's one. It's con modifier time equal to minutes, minimum of 1 minute, I believe.
But the problem with that is when you like, for example, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you choke someone out in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's a guillotine choke, one most people would be familiar with, where you catch someone's head in under here between your bicep. Sorry, no, that's stupid. A rear naked choke, where you get behind someone, you loop this arm around their neck here, you put your hand in their back there, and you're basically that isn't an air choke. That's what's called a blood choke, because it cuts off the blood flow of the two carotid arteries here. And the reason you pass out isn't because from lack of air; it's because there's no blood getting to your brain. And like to implement, because like that's what you think of when you think of like a submission grappler, either that or like just breaking someone's fucking knees and elbows. But like to do that in D&D, you would need to have a whole new system for like submitting someone for like cutting off blood circulation, like incapacitation via blood circulation would have to be a whole, or submission maneuvers would have to be like a whole new thing. And I just think it's a bit of a glaring exception, because like monk is basically like you know, like if you look at the monk styles, you got like, you know, you kind of all your different styles of martial arts, and you've got your weapon specialist, you've got your like hand-to-hand brawlers, you've got your like you got
your ninja,
the ninja, all that, but you don't have the crazy guy who like just takes you down on the ground and like ties you in knots and you can't get out, and that's
like kickboxing style. Kickboxing's very
I would say that's
mission takedown kind of thing as well, isn't it?
Not really, not not really. Like kickboxing is normally just like punch and kick. Like pure.
It's kind
like,
of in the name. I guess I should have known that.
Yeah. Like pure. Like kickboxing is. Sorry, I suppose that I put it really badly. Kickboxing is focused almost solely on striking. Whereas this, where like what I'm on about is like a martial arts style that basically only focuses on grappling and groundwork, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu or Japanese jiu-jitsu, where like everything you learn is like locks and joint breaks and holds and choking people and learning to and throw. Like, how is there not like a judo monk where you just throw people? I would absolutely love to play a monk that just like flips people like goddamn pancakes. Like,
yeah, I think maybe.
Why can't I choke out a dragon, Connor? Why can't I choke out a dragon?
I see where you're coming from, and I think the open palm has been kind of just defaulted to be all semi-mundane fighting styles in terms of like, you know, whether in terms of all real world martial arts.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by mundane, like in terms of non-magical. And then they tend to go for like, okay, barring the Kensei maybe, they tend to go for like supernatural fighting styles and stuff after that, which I get. I mean, it's D&D. We want to, and maybe it's just, I can understand why they're not just going for another another semi non-magical class again when you already have that there. You mentioned this on Twitter though, and it got me thinking about like building. How would you build just a really, really good brawler fighter? You know, someone who can just who is less of the magic side and more of just. Because again, the thing about playing monk is, right, if you want to play like just a best hand-to-hand fighter, monk really is the best way to go. But monk doesn't always account for like, what if you want to play strength? Well, you can play a strength monk, but you're kind of at an inherent disadvantage armor class wise. And then you can also play, and then like fighters get more hits than monks. Without overall like in 20 levels without
level 20 fighters. Jesus.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like a really, really good combo would be open palm monk. So we're sticking with, and I say this specifically because the open palm gets like the push pull knock prone thing. So they already have some inherent moves they can do there. You also get like taking dodge as a bonus action and stuff like that. I think they all kind of come into like the moves you can do as a fighting person.
You can heal yourself as an action by like 10 times your monk level, I believe.
Exactly, which I mean almost lines up with like a fighter's second wind to me. It doesn't have to be that your wounds are magically sealing up. That could just be you taking a second, catching your breath, centering yourself, and going back in again. You know, it doesn't have to be representative of magical wounds stitching themselves closed. So I thought a good build for this, over 20 levels. 11 levels of the fighter. Okay. Right, so you get extra attack 2, so 3 attacks on an action. Bonus action, 1 extra attack. Key point, 5 attacks in a round. Also pick your fighting style as unarmed, right?
Okay.
Simply because the other 6 levels, or say 9 levels that you would then take into monk on top of that would be they don't get you up to D8 in terms of your punching.
Right.
But you can take this fighting style, and the thing is, no other fighting styles really benefit you. You're not wearing armor, you're not using a shield, you're not dual wielding weapons, you're not using archery stuff. It makes sense. The only one maybe would be like blind sense potentially.
Grappler is a feat, not a fighting style, isn't it?
It is a feat, yes.
Yeah.
And also grappler as a feat is absolutely a thing I would have suggested as well.
Grappler and Tavern Brawler.
And probably Tavern Brawler, yeah. So take those. Take 11 levels fighter, 9 levels into monk. Take that fighting style to get yourself some d8s on all your attacks. So again, that's all d8s the whole way through. So when you're at 20th level, you're making 4 attacks minimum, 5 if you really want a round. You only have 9 key points, which isn't a lot, but you can take Battle Master, right? And if you're taking Battle Master, you get those additional d8 superiority die.
They scale as well. They're not just d8.
They do. Yeah, they scale up. And the thing is as well, when you play a Battle Master, the way the wording is, right? And I had to check some of Jeremy Crawford's tweets to verify this. But
not the rules, Jeremy Crawford's tweets.
Jeremy Crawford his word is law.
Pretty much, to be fair.
But the way that it's written and the way it's explained by Crawford is that unarmed strikes by a monk are weapon attacks. Their hands aren't weapons. So if ever you have a spell that's like touch a non-magical weapon and make it have this effect, that doesn't work. But your hands do count. When you make an unarmed melee attack against someone, that's the same as making an unarmed a melee weapon attack.
Okay.
So as per the rules, you can use all the Battle Master stuff that you would normally use with weapons on that. That gives you a bunch of other things you get. And the thing is, right, and it's beautiful because on a short rest, you get your superiority dice back, and you get your key points back. So you can go hell for leather and fight all your superiority, all your key points, dodge
action
people
surge.
as a bonus action. Action surge. You'll get 1 action surge, which is going to be at 20th level. It's going to be 6 attacks on your action in a round, plus 7 if you do your bonus action 1. Or you could even just spend a single key point and then dodge after that. So you could go 6 hits, all doing d8. Some of them potentially doing an additional damage die because you may have decided you're using a Battle Master maneuver on them, and then also your speed would be crazy. Taking things like Grappler. There are some, I'd have to double check now. There's something. Taking the Grappler one lets you, I believe.
I think what Grappler is when you grapple a creature, you can restrain them as a bonus action on.
Yes, but there's one. Yeah, I think you can restrain them. There's something about it, though. I can't remember which one it is. There's something like you do extra damage when you're.
Oh, while they're restrained, they take a little bit of damage, I think. Or I might be thinking of a different creature's effect.
I was looking up during the week. 1 sec now. You have advantage on it. Oh, you have advantage on attack rolls against a grappled creature. So again, use one of your 3 attacks to grapple someone, and then your follow-up attacks, or including your bonus action offhand, are all with advantage. And then you can use an action to try and pin. That's not it. What is it? I want to say it's maybe a Battle Master thing. But you do like some additional damage or something like that, just for having grappled the creature at the start of your turn. Where did I read this? I'm gonna go mad thinking about this.
I think it might be from a recent UA because I have the same thing. It's like you grapple this creature, and while they're grappled, they take X. It's something that burns their body or something.
It might be a Battle Master thing. I want to say it's maybe a. Oh no, it wouldn't be because that wouldn't make sense.
You know the way you said according to Jeremy Crawford praise his name that monks' unarmed attacks count as a melee weapon attack.
Yes, this is why you can go monk paladin and smite with your punches.
Yeah, I was literally, as soon as you said that, I was like 5d8 radiant damage.
Yeah. But I honestly, it'll be a set. Like honestly, you get so many moves, right? So you get your base things from just being a monk open palm, right? You get to heal a little bit. 9 levels will not get you the
sanctuary
necrotic.
It's called Quivering Palm.
Quivering Palm. It will not get you Quivering Palm, but you will have 9 key points that you can spend on 9 additional attacks, or you can also choose like the additional hits. Dex? Okay, so Dex save, or be knocked prone, Strength save, or be pushed 15 feet away, which means punching people off a cliff.
Yeah.
Or can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. Those are all great. You have Stunning Strike.
Yeah, which is so strong.
At 11th level, you'd have a ton of.
I think you've like wholeness. You have the healer sort of thing with the monk. I think you get the. Don't you get the? Are you taking enough monk levels there to get the thing where you can just as an action end the thing and
I believe so. 1 second now. So 9th level, Stillness of Mind. Yeah. So that's a 7th level ability.
That's what it's. Stillness of mind and wholeness of body. Wholeness of body is the healing thing.
Yes, and you also get Evasion at 7th level as a monk as well,
which is one of the most broken abilities in the game.
It is. You'd have a what's it? You have 9 key points. You have a plus 15 on your speed. So even at least 45 speed, if you don't decide to take something like mobile or something like that, just to make yourself even faster. You're insanely fast, ton of moves, ton of Battlemaster superiority dice and maneuvers to do, key points to spend on extra attacks, or to stun someone, or to knock them prone, or to push them back. You have an absolute ton of stuff to do, and I think it'd be an amazing combination of all that kind of stuff.
No, that's awesome. Like, I love characters that have lots of options, because I think, like, yeah, it's inherently powerful just to have lots of ways to respond, but like, all the ways you have to respond aren't inherently going to be equally as powerful as each other. So I think it's it basically just, I think, like, if everyone has lots of options, it allows for lots of interplay between everyone's abilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the more options everyone has, the more options you have for crossover between those different moves and stuff like that. It's one thing that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think 4th edition had things like that where people could pick moves that they're and like, I think, like, for example, like a barbarian or someone could pick cleave, or a fighter could pick cleave as a thing, and it's like a battle master. They've kind of, I don't want to say dumbed it down, but they've kind of reduced it down to just a battle master having these special moves that they can do, which makes sense. But it was more, imagine every subclass, particularly of fighters, having different moves that they can do and specialize in different ways.
You can do that now if you take martial initiate.
Don't even start me a martial initiative. Just it's a great one, and I just want it to be better than it is. Oh wait, here we go. No, never mind. I'm just looking at some of the moves here for Battlemaster. Like, grappling strike is one you could do. So you spend a superior dice and grapple attack as a bonus action, and then you just continue hitting them with your advantage because you took the grappler feat.
The way I view that is like, you catch someone in a headlock and you're just going bang, bang, bang.
Basically, like, yeah. Sweeping attack, riposte. I just picture parry. I just picture, like, just doing like a rotary, just like that. Someone goes to lunge at you with a sword, and you're just like that and parry it off.
Yeah.
Great. I just think it'd be amazing. I don't think you'd not have fun with this. You're fast. You've got a good amount of health because you're doing D10s and D8s. You probably have I would probably make a strength build for this personally, but that's just me. And I would just offset wisdom and dex to be kind of on par, so that I get a little bit of both. And then they should add up to a moderately decent armor class. And then I would immediately, as soon as I have gold in the campaign, start crafting a cloak of protection or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably wise.
That's why I picked the extra wisdom. That was a bit of a tangent. But that was a character concept just based on what you were saying about there being this kind of hole in that.
Yeah.
I just feel like, if to make a semi-mundane fighter with just a ton of moves would be like, there's a huge catalog of stuff, and they all come back on a short rest, would be amazing.
Yeah, it's like, time. Okay, I have all my abilities now. Let's go again.
Yeah. Well, I just punched that dragon 87 times, but if you give me an hour, I can punch him 87 times again.
Yeah, I missed a few of those. We can round that to 90. Come on.
Yeah. Any other character prompts you have? What was the named one? So that was the unnamed one you had.
Stephen the Bush Druid.
I know. You've told me this one before. Go on.
I think I've mentioned it on the podcast as well before, so I'll be brief about it. But it's basically a Steve Irwin crocodile hunter druid, and his life's ambition is to find the Tarrasque where it's sleeping and catalogue it and learn everything he can about it, so he can learn why it sleeps and why it needs to wake up, so he can make sure that it stays asleep.
Yeah, I really love that.
And he wouldn't be afraid of it either. He'd be like, "Oh, look at this beauty!" And it's like this 19-foot tall, like, hell lizard.
The teeth.
If you look if you look really closely here, you can see I'm bleeding quite profusely from the bite mark. Like, you know, that kind of thing. I think that would be a lot of fun to just do, just like literally not even try to be clever about it, just full on. Yeah, I'm Steve Irwin, but he's a druid. Because that feels like Steve Irwin brought to the most Steve Irwin you could possibly do. Like, not only is he amazing at talking about and explaining why these animals should be protected and what they do and all that stuff, we can go, oh yeah, and he doesn't need to go anywhere now. Now he can just go, do you want to see what a boa constrictor looks like? Hey!
I do. Yeah, you've told me that before, and honestly, I think it's one of my favorite takes on druids because that's much my problem with druids. It's honestly it stems from a lack of my own creativity on the class. I would struggle to come up with a decent, unique druid because I feel like it's hard not to be the living in the forest hippie who loves animals and it
Yeah.
doesn't eat meat and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, there's gotta be more to the class. And I've seen I honestly think like there's some pretty original takes out there on druids, but I just
I'd love to
yeah,
do.
I think that's one of the best takes I've seen. Like,
I'd love to do a Green Knight as well. I do like a druid fighter multi-class, or like a probably fighter, because then you'll need to have strength rather than like say like warlock or anything like that. Where if you go into Hexblader, you might need other things. But like fighter druid, and just be like, yeah, I'm a warrior. But I'm not like I'm a martially trained warrior. I live in this forest. I don't have weapons, but if you come near me, I'm going to summon a flame sword and ruin your day.
I really want that like a Green Knight as a subclass for Druid in the same way that like Blade Singer or is one for Wizard.
You'd almost be like the elves in Lothlorien that stop the Fellowship, like you're like a protector of the forest realms, but not in like the druidic way. You're like wander through, make sure everything's in harmony. It's like, oh, if something isn't in harmony, right? I'm going to murder the crap out of whatever's causing disharmony and restore the balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it'd be really cool, particularly because like druids have that restriction with when it comes to like armor and stuff like that. They can't wear metal, and I'm like that's an interesting because sometimes restrictions can be really good things for characters. Like how would I work around that, or how would I make this a viable character despite these flaws? I think trying to
and you would be a knight, you would be a soldier that changes their armor regularly over the campaign because as soon as you kill anything with a higher AC than what you already have, you'd be like skinning it now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I had this idea, and it's a magic item I have kind of in my current world where it's called. I'm working off a different name based on like the Creature Codex books and stuff like that, but it's called Cold Iron Armor, and it's like a half plate that druids can wear because even though it's made of iron, it's never been in a forge. It's not at all manufactured. It is raw iron. It's been purified by like imagine using like a shaped stone or whatever or mold earth, and you're pulling all the imperfections out of the iron rather than melting it down and stuff. So it's never been in a forge, it's not manufactured, it is in its natural raw state, and that's kind of the loophole that lets druids wear it.
You could have it be a thing where it's like a specific like sect of druid smiths that have refined mold earth down to the point where they have created a new spell called mold metal, and they're able to draw the iron out of the earth itself pure, and literally like a metal bender in Avatar, and they can just like shape it to make plates and stuff. So yeah, it's never been forged, and it's still in its natural state.
Yeah, because I just like the idea of being able to be, like you said, like someone who wanders the woods, who is a full-clad metal knight, but they wander the woods and they just live out here with the animals, and they're at peace and they love the forest, and it's their job to guard it. And I'd definitely go for Falcon for that.
They love the forest. They really love the forest, and you better fucking love the forest too.
Just a big like the Leviathan axe, just a huge bearded axe. Like, amazing.
So good.
I got one here that I played for a one shot you did actually.
Oath of Glory?
No, sorry. Well, actually, that's a different one.
Oath of Heroism now, actually, so.
It is Heroism now, yeah. I should only notice it when we were starting the podcast. That character shows up as archived, and I was like, I thought I made it after they already released it, but okay, fair enough. This is a character who I was going off of the name Isara, so Yssara. She is an Air Ganassi barbarian, Path of the Totem Warrior.
This one was very cool. I remember it from the one shot.
I just I like the concept of her. So basically, she's big. She's a really tall, muscular
Lady D
barbarian. Not quite. But she's got her kind of sky blue Air Ganassi skin, her white hair, and then she wears kind of like all of her clothes are kind of like partial animal hides, and stuff like that. She's a hunter. Like her main thing is she's a hunter. But unlike I think a lot of people, I wouldn't pick any of the. I only pick the eagle things because being an Air Ganassi, the sky is her whole her domain and stuff. She is really really fast for being a barb. Anyway, I think I picked mobile for her as well. She's 50 feet of movement. and she dual wields short swords, but they're basically like, imagine like, when I picture her move, she moves like a saber-toothed tiger. Like, although she is obviously, like I said, eagle. She has like an eagle helm and stuff like that with feathers coming off it and things like that. But she is so fast that she doesn't use a bow when hunting like deer and stuff. She'll be creeping through the forest. I've also made her really dexy as well, and she wears no armor, so she's really quiet, moving through the forest. And then as soon as she gets close enough to the deer, or if the deer hears her prematurely, the deer will bolt. And then she doesn't try to quickly fire a bow; she bolts after it, and she's just as fast as the deer.
Yeah.
She's moving on this thing, and then she'll leap with both swords up and come down like a saber-tooth tiger's fangs, and just into the animal. And she like I just picture them, two swords sink in. She grapples it, and the two of them come into like a roll until they stop.
If you've ever seen a cheetah take down an antelope, that's
basically, yeah. Well, a cheetah latches on, and the two of them go into a roll together, and the cheetah just holds onto it until it stops moving. And she basically behaves like that when she hunts. She's fast, she's strong, she's really dexy. And again, I just like I also like at high levels because I made her an air ganassi. I kind of made her an air ganassi because at high levels, one of the eagle thing you get at 14, I believe, lets you basically fly until the end of your turn, like your full movement on that turn. So you will fall at the end of your turn, but you essentially have like 40-foot leaps essentially, and can like run up walls and
You've
all
Hulk
that kind of
jumps.
stuff because. Sorry?
You've Hulk jumps.
You basically have Hulk jumps, yeah. And I think that would I just imagine that her air ganassi heritage and her affinity with air is what lets her do that.
Yeah, no, that was an awesome character. I remember, like, out of all the characters in that one, that's the one that stood out to me in particular. I think it is because I did a thing with that where I kind of did a scene with each of you as you opened while you're being collected, and yours was that scene where you were hunting a deer and did it like that.
Yeah.
Came down from a mountaintop kind of thing, and that was super awesome and super memorable. Yeah, I like the idea that like a Dex barbarian is a fun play against type, because you do lose the whole you lose your reckless attack, and you lose your advantage. Yeah, you still have the advantage on the strengths save.
Well, I think I still had her be strength being her primary stat.
Oh, okay.
But rather than being like strength con, I made her very dexy as well because I want her to be a stealthy hunter as well.
Oh, okay, sorry, it's been a while since we played that one shot, so I can't
exactly.
I remember that particular scene because it's almost exactly as Connor described it to you guys. There is what happened. But yeah, she was a really fun one. Yeah, I think I don't know if I have that many new.
If you have one, we can squeeze one more in quickly if you have one.
Yeah, I won't go into super detail, but I think it would be cool to do an undead warlock based off of Faust, the guy who made a deal with the devil to say he sold his soul to the devil for immortality. I think alchemy. He was an alchemist who sold his soul to the devil to try and overcome death. And I think that would be a really cool place to start with from an undead warlock, the new one.
The new one in Tasha's, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
Sorry, it's Van Richten's. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think Van Richten's. We've got some great stuff in Van Richten's.
Yeah, lots of great stuff.
A lot of what I think pretty much all of what I've talked about today has been either Xanathar's or the base book, whereas the PHP but I think I do have one here that's a Dampier character.
Ooh, nice.
But that's about it. I haven't really delved into Tasha's deep enough, and I think honestly, if I gave it a proper read through again, and Van Richten's, I think I'd come up with some really great character concepts there.
Yeah, same. I think like most of the stuff I stuck to would be the core races from the years of more experience, but the books that have been out longer.
We know them better.
Yeah, we know them better, as opposed to like Van Richten's and Tasha's, which both feel like they came out like last month, but in reality it's been like 6 months and like a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Martin, that is all the time we have for today.
Man, that was a lot of fun, man. And like as usual, absolutely flies by. But like that one in particular, I love just talking about my characters because there's so many cool things you can draw on and so many ideas, and it's like the same spirit as when like you're a kid and you're talking to your friends and you're like, who'd win in a fight, Superman or the Hulk?
Yeah,
and so it's that same kind of like, like just like powerful nerd energy, and like, what happened? Is that so like making characters is just a blast.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think, and honestly, I love bouncing ideas off you because I feel like it's kind of like an echo chamber in a good way, because I'll give you an idea and then you'll go, oh, that gives me an idea for this, and you give me
Positive
an idea
feedback loop.
me.
Positive feedback loop. We're not an echo chamber.
Thank you very much. Positive feedback loop is what I meant to say, not echo chamber. And on that dumb note, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, stories you'd like us like to share, or topics you would like us to cover, you can tweet us at MicFlayerspod on Twitter. You can find our podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and now on Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic as well. Thank you very much for that, Martin.
Not a bother.
Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
Mostly you can find me right here on the Micflayers podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time. Other than that, mostly exist on Twitter. One at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right hand corner of my screen here, and also on the Micflayers podcast, which is at MicFlayerspod, which you'll also see on your screen. Other than that, those are sort of the main places of the internet that I kind of hang around, the wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Nice.
It would have been nice if I didn't say Skyve.
You can find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZEROPOINTCONOR, 1N, very important. And we're in time.
Yeah.
Nice. There's a delay, so it's hard sometimes. But also you can find me here on the Micflayers podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you all again next time.
Bye-bye.